Hello and welcome to London Property. I'm your host Farnaz Fazaipour, and today we're doing our market update videos and we're welcoming Edward Thomson back to the show. Welcome back.
Hello, lovely to be here.
And I'm going to let Edward do a little introduction of himself and then dive in to tell us what's going on in his market.
Sure. I work on Sloane Street with my team there, and we sell houses and flats across Belgravia, Knightsbridge, Chelsea, South Ken, bit of Mayfair, and the market has been very interesting. So we've obviously had all of these extraordinary uncertainties. We've had a UK election, we've had a US election, we've had the unknown budget forthcoming, and so we've had this sort of. I think we started the year knowing that these things were coming, but you've got that sort of positive buoyancy of sort of we'll fight through. But the reality is we all knew what was going to happen. It was going to stymie the market, which it has to a degree. Anyone who did a lot of business in the 6 weeks running up to the budget, was, I think, was lucky. So we did do business. We all did business, but it's been tough, I think, and various different stratas. Interestingly, I think the most obvious polarity is that the top end of the market has sort of ground to a halt, but the bottom end of the market, I think stuff up to 2 million, of which I still do a bit, is still pretty active. And Notting Hill has been gangbusters for a long time now, but you have this beautiful sort of, the architecture doesn't just jump in that way that we see in the big houses or even the flats. There's such a varied degree of architecture. You can find the square footage in a lovely sort of gradient. So, there are no substantial jumps in price from one section of the market to another, and it's always flowing. So it's encouraging that the bottom end of the market's been moving.
And that's because the locals are finding it more affordable?
I don't know the answer, actually, to that. I just think the domestic market we've been more geared to the domestic market for quite a lot longer than we would care to admit, haven't we? So maybe we're becoming more efficient at that, and maybe the market has adjusted. I think there's no doubt that the prices have come off sort of to a degree quite significantly over the last 3 years, and that's, it's undoubtedly a good time to buy, I think. So
what are you seeing as the profile of the buyer of the sort of, start of the market, the sort of sub 2 million market? Are they?
I think it's still a rich tapestry. Where we are, it's very much pied-à-terre country, and of course that's and for a long time that's been very difficult because of taxation. There's been no investment. Why would you buy something to invest? You're going to leave it in the bank, aren't you? So, but I think that the prices have adjusted such that they're now becoming more attractive. And so that's probably galvanized activity, which is good. We're just beginning to see a bit more of that in the really prime stuff, prime locations, which is good. The that sort of area between sort of 3.5 and 7 million, where we tend to do a lot of business. The bigger or the sort of nice size houses, nothing too big, but decent quality and good locations. They have been selling at the right price. I'm absolutely convinced there's two buyers for every property at the right price. But we have, for various different reasons, seen this extraordinary polarity in price, and it's become more and more exaggerated as the inflated costs of doing works became more and more conspicuous. And of course, we're well beyond the Liz Truss issue, but we had those inflation rates have come way down. So that sort of, I think, the downward trajectory of interest rate movement. I'm just beginning to see the data points now of the downward trajectory of price of doing works, which is great news because you can charge someone £900 a square foot to do something, but if no one calls you, you're going to go bust, aren't you? So I'm just beginning to see contractors actually, who I've either given a job to or who I just know, we're just chatting, they're now beginning to see some competitive movement to get business.
So they're being less aggressive with the way that they're charging.
Or they're dramatically adjusting their quotes in order to get a job. And when I say dramatic, I mean recently a contractor just had a relatively small job, around £100,000 job. Well, sorry, it was around about a £60,000 job to just do something like bathrooms or something. And one builder she knew, two builders she knew really well. One came in at 60 grand, which is what she was expecting. The other came in at 100. And she went back to that person and said, "What do you mean 100? Don't be ridiculous. You know, I've already got a much more better quote than that, in line with what my initial expectations. And overnight that was chopped to 62 grand or something.
Right.
So, you know, when you've got this, there's just so much noise. I think that's being filtered out now, because I think people are, and I don't know, but it seems to me that the trajectory of cost of works is coming down. But of course, you know, if you've got a beautiful product, we can sell it for an outrageous price. It's not easy to do, and you need a bit of luck, but it's achievable. And we see these anomalous spikes up here, and equally, if you've got something that's pretty average, or, you know, the client didn't spend much money on it 12 years ago, or even less, you know, it's effectively unmodernized in the eyes of the buyer. Interestingly, though, I have been dealing with various properties that had a lot of money spent on them maybe 10 to 15 years ago, that are more saleable and showing their residual quality, if they've been maintained well, over something that's shiny and newly developed 2 or 3 years ago, that frankly you can see is conspicuously underinvested. You know, it's basically cheap.
Are you finding that people, I mean, you know, there was a time in our career where an unmodernized property had a queue of people outside it, you know, by 9 o'clock in the morning, and they were all bidding to buy it. Are you finding that, you know, those properties are now going to brave end users, or are you finding that they really have to slash their prices to become a bargain?
I think for some time it's been the latter. I mean, if you've got something, it depends on the quality of the dress, of course, and a greater dress is always going to do well relevant to its peers, even if it's unmodernized. However, that said, you know, I can think of right now, I've said that, I can think of examples of fabulous addresses with knackered houses that need a full job, and I guess the range of the uncertainty over the cost of doing that work. I mean, it's not even uncertain. It's still very high. I'm just beginning to see signs that it's coming down, and friends in the States have said it has already come down a lot.
They tend to be about a couple of years ahead of us, don't they? When you look over the pond for answers.
I think you're probably right. I'm not 100% sure, but I think you're probably right. So I think, yeah, it's got to be a very high price per gross developed value in order to give someone confidence to spend 6, 7, 8, 9, 1,000. I know someone who's just spent £1,300 a square foot finishing a 4-year project. So
that they're keeping or selling?
Oh, keeping, yeah.
I was going to say, they better keep that one.
It's a multi-generational, you know, legacy project.
Yeah.
You know, but people like that will spend a lot of money, and rightly so, because it's
built to last.
They'll be maintained beautifully, and it's one of the most special houses. Yeah. I think that if you want to sell something, I mean, I lost a job for a house, it's a Chelsea house, that I thought would be worth about 3.5 million, and I saw it come onto the market at 4.5 million, and subsequently we brought on a similar house at just over 3.5 million, and we sold it within, I think, 3 weeks at just under 3.5 million. So you get it at the right price.
Price sensitivity is really important in this market.
I think if it's the right price, it'll sell.
It'll sell.
Yeah.
And what are you seeing as kind of the type of buyers that are around at the moment? The Americans have been around, but I've just done a deal with a Spanish guy who wants to be here, is moving here, is going to educate his children here. You know, if you look around the world, we've had all this uncertainty in what's going on at the moment, you know, and we've had the Ukraine issue, and it's, you know, it reminds people, I think, I hope, that political stability that London and the UK and great Western cities bring, you know, can't be underestimated through a global lens. And so yes, it's getting more expensive. Tax is tax. I haven't, I did I agreed 2 deals on the day of the budget, or I had the offers that I knew would be agreeable on the day of the budget, and we didn't agree them. But 7 to 10 days later, we did agree them. One at the same price and one marginally adjusted. It's not difficult to share 2%. And I think it's not a big deal for someone who wants to live here. It's a cost of doing business. So I'm hopeful that the second home additional 2% is not a killer. I don't think so. I think London's London. And whilst there have been lots of people leaving, and sure, if you want to go and spend time in Dubai and some of these other places, lots of people going there because you only have to be there for 1 day every 6 months in order to get, I think, tax domesticity there. So, but I mean, there are lovely places to be domiciled offshore, but it costs you a lot of money just to enjoy life going to the places that you find you can't, for whatever reason, base yourself in.
So you have to be sort of
constantly moving.
Tax exiled in Dubai, but actually you're going to spend
to travel,
traveling the whole time.
If you want to,
so all the money you're saving.
Enjoy, yeah. So like some people just suck it up and want to live here and educate their kids. I think it's, I'm hopeful that we'll overcome this. And actually, now that we've got all those variables out of the way, that we know what's going to happen in the States, and I think that it's probably going to be good for business that Trump has got in. That's my view. Don't shoot me. And regardless of our current administration, government, we know what their agenda is. We'll be dealing with that. But the property market likes stability, and we have stability. So I'm hopeful that next year, again, with those downward trajectories of interest rates, as long as this government doesn't do inflationary things that they're bound to probably do. So it's going to reduce, but at a slower rate, it would be my prediction. But I think as long as the trajectory is down, which it should be, and if the cost of works come down, that's going to give people more confidence, which will reduce this polarity of, ultra modern, amazing quality, super address to, lower ground floor, no outside space, unmod on a 10-year lease. You can't give it away. So I think when that polarity goes people will have more confidence to spend money and spend the 15.5%, which is now standard if it's a second home,
Yeah, well, we're still better off than Singapore, right? 60% over there.
Well, precisely. You got to pay tax wherever you go.
Well, that's their stamp duty.
What is it again?
60%. So the stamp duty in
wow, I did not know.
I guess they don't want anybody buying houses there.
Yeah. But is that not over a certain maximum size? There's a maximum size you can buy.
I'm going to look it up. If I'm going to quote on camera, I'm going to look it up for next time.
I can't remember.
Yeah,
but hey, it's interesting. But you pay tax elsewhere.
Yeah,
in one way or another.
Well, this is the thing, right? It was like one of the things that we're all listening to and hearing. Oh, people are leaving because of non-dom. Oh, people are leaving because it's like you could do all of those things, but then where you go to can then change their regime.
No, of course.
Which they did in Italy.
Now they've got you.
In Italy, it was 100,000 a year. Now it's 200,000 a year. So, these things happen. And I've noticed also that in other European countries, and by the way, as a nation, we're just in line with most of the rest of the world. Whereas before, you know...
We were more aggressively beneficial.
Much more attractive to foreign investors and potentially at the cost of locals. But some of those countries are also now detaching their visa status from real estate investment because they can see that false demand causes a lot of problems domestically as well. So if you did have a magic wand, where is 2025 going?
More confidence. As I was just describing, make it easier for us to understand the price of things because it's quite easy to get it wrong, or you certainly see some erroneous pricing out there. And I think if the builders get their act together and actually just become sensible and don't try and fleece the market by 100% over and above whatever the inflationary cost is, then more people will buy and we'll just be a bit more normal.
I'm bored of
It
all this
boring.
abnormality. It's like,
It is
come on,
getting
guys.
boring.
It's like but interestingly, it's wonderful. You come across a lovely buyer who just they're not really interested. They're doing, they're moving on with their life. They need it for whatever reason, schooling, marriage, divorce, death, whatever. These are all the things, day-to-day stuff we have to deal with. And that's why you move. And I think people are quite prepared to pay tax if they like the product and it suits their lifestyle. If it's a one-off tax, you'll pay it.
I agree with you. I think 2025 is going to be about the confidence. I think we're becoming kind of very thick-skinned at being thrown things that are just constantly causing, the job to be harder and for people's decision-making to be, slowed down. But I think that, going into 2025, that's going to change.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for talking
Great
to us.
pleasure.
We look forward to
Thank you
having
for
you back
having me.
again soon. And if you have got a property you want to sell or you're looking to buy, you want to be connected with the right individuals, then do please get in touch with us and we'll make sure to connect you with the right person for your requirements.